I want you to talk a bit more on the conversation you had when you took the paper to the board or the executive to say, this is how much money I would want to start this new transformation or reform. So, and then that's a different mindset, a typical NFP, to go through a startup and then invest. So what was the leap of faith in leaping? Sorry for the pun, but what was that conversation, and what do you think was the reason from you might think you would fund you?
So I think Uniting here in Queensland and Uniting in New South Wales ACT, the boards are really quite progressive. They absolutely understood what the new systems were going to be about, and that in many ways they were very much ready for we recognise on the one hand we have a huge transformation that our organisations are going to need to undertake, but at the same time we also know that there are these new value chain opportunities, and if we'd like to progress those, we can't try to do it within the big parent, if you like, organisations, because they'll just get, the oxygen will get sucked out of it. They won't get the attention, support they need, because while we kind of look at the investment and go, oh, it's pretty significant, in the scale of, if you took a Uniting Care Queensland, at the time, they're the largest private employer in Queensland with 15,000 employees, 10,000 volunteers, largest aged care provider, 4 of the largest private hospitals in the state, community family services, disability services, Lifeline, like monstrous, probably turnover, would have been in that 2 billion kind of range. And so, we'd be tiny as this startup venture. And so they're really in the broader risk construct of decisioning, not such a big deal, but really significantly important. And so then it was how do we set it up and structure it? So it's actually got a chance of a success. And that was where, and it was also the first opportunity for the synods of New South Wales and Queensland and the care organisations to collaborate in a joint venture project.
Is this a strong case study or a unique scenario in all faith-based and NFP organisations across the country?
Well, I think it is. It would be pretty close to one of the first, and certainly with the mindset that we approached it, which was very much looking at it from the perspective of a startup mentality, thinking about as where the business case and the funding is almost like thinking about it as the venture capital pipeline. And what do you do in terms of the milestones you're making to evidence that you've proved out enough to go to the next stage, then the next stage and the next stage. And as you're hitting those milestones, then you kind of then go back and say, yep, and now we're ready for the next funding round, as you're on this sprint to basically prove out a hypothesis. And again, both organisations being incredibly supportive, incredibly patient. It was very new, but over the last 6 years, they've been incredibly supportive of the journey we've taken, backed us, through as the startup cycle involves, the ups and the downs. But through that first phase and to market, through to break even and sustainability, to being able to then start to generate a surplus that can start to repay some of the invested capital, and all the while helping us and working with us in terms of making sure that we're staying true to purpose and mission, and that the value proposition that we're delivering to the customer is as the intent had always been, that it should be at a benchmark level. We've always since day one just wanted to strive for setting a benchmark in the customer experience while doing it as the most efficient operator in the sector. And so within that, really the members have been incredibly supportive in the fact that technology enablement needed to be at the backbone and the heart of how we would go about doing this, which again, in an NFP sector where, I think traditional NFPs are probably renowned for the fact that they're underinvested in the technology side of how they operate, to take a technology-led startup business in a new category, in a new sector, it's very exciting and huge learnings.